vegetable spray or do you use butter
Vegetable spray.
in the pan? We're going to make fudge. So for our recipe we need 4.5 cups of sugar, 1 can of evaporated milk. This is 12 ounces. 18 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. We only have 12 ounces, so we're going to supplement it with milk chocolate chips, a half a pound of butter, and a teaspoon of vanilla. If you want to add 2 cups of chopped nuts, you can do that as well. And then we're going to spray our pan with vegetable cooking spray. So let's get started. So we measured the chocolate chips that were in the 12 ounce or the 11.5 ounce bag, and they came to 2 cups. So a half of that, or 6 ounces of that, we've got a cup of chocolate chips. Okay, so you need a heat safe bowl, first of all.
Okay, we're going to start by
And spray your 9x13 pan with non-stick cooking spray. You need to get everything prepped beforehand because you're going to have to stir the fudge constantly when it's boiling, and then things will move pretty quickly. So what are you doing now?
just getting everything prepped, putting all the chocolate chips
In the bowl.
in the bowl,
Okay.
taking the butter,
And we're using unsalted butter for this.
and I'm cutting it in cubes because it helps it melt faster when you pour the liquid over it.
Okay.
You want to get this all prepped up beforehand because you're constantly going to be stirring and you're not going to have time to do it. The liquid has to be poured on the chocolate chip and butter mixture hot. So this just helps it.
Helps it melt faster.
Yeah, even if you put the butter in at room temperature, it would even be better.
Adding the nuts
You need to
in
add the
first.
nuts after you mix the hot liquid in and chocolate chips and butter. After you get that completely stirred in, then you add the nuts. If you add the nuts first, it lowers the temperature and your stuff won't mix up well.
Okay.
For the pan, we're going to add 4.5 cups of sugar. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We're going to add 1 can of evaporated milk. Going to just mix that off the heat. Okay, we've got the sugar and the milk all mixed. We're going to take that to the stove and heat that. We've got the mixture of sugar, 4.5 cups of sugar and 1 can of milk, evaporated milk, in the pan on the stove. Now we're just waiting for that to turn to a boil. Once it starts to boil, then we're going to time it for 6 minutes.
And we've already got the timer set for 6 minutes, so we don't have to do that.
That time is very important, that you don't go less than 6 minutes. It has to be 6 minutes. Otherwise your fudge won't set up. Okay, you need to watch carefully.
So you need to have a big enough pan so that when it starts at a rolling boil, it's not going to boil over, right?
Yes. You want to make sure that you do a light stir.
Once it starts boiling, turn your stove down a little so that it won't boil over. Go ahead.
The first time we made this, we started doing the timing at 6 minutes after it started doing a light boil. We made the fudge and it never did set up because you need to wait until it's a rolling boil to start your time. As you can see now, it's starting to get really close, where we'll start timing the 6 minutes. I'm going to take this moment now to turn the stovetop down just a little bit.
So you went from high to a
7.
one or two notches down.
Now it can boil over very quickly, so we may have to take it off the heat just a little bit. And I'm going to start the timer. Notice I've taken it off the heat so it doesn't boil over. This is why you need an extra tall pan. You don't want a pan that fits it exactly, because you're going to have this.
Did I put the wrong pan out for you?
No, this pan's perfect. You just have to be more careful. So this is the rolling boil that we were talking about. Just got to be real careful. Pull it off the stove. But it's a constant stir. You don't want that bottom to burn. Otherwise you'll have a different flavor to your fudge. One other note to be careful with, this is a very hot mixture, so you want to make sure that if you have little kids, that may not be an appropriate time for them to be in the kitchen with you. We're talking about a pretty hot liquid.
You want me to stir for a while?
No, I'm fine. You notice I just have half the pan on the stovetop at this time, and it seems to be just about perfect, but as far as the heat. And we have our chocolate chip and butter and vanilla in a bowl already. You want to make sure that's a pretty substantial bowl. So you're going to be pouring this liquid into it. Yeah, you want to have an extra large bowl so you have plenty of room to make sure you can stir it. But the bowl needs to have some heat tolerance to it because this is a pretty hot liquid. We have a little over 2 minutes to go. This is one of the best fudge recipes I've ever tasted. It really is a good texture to the fudge. And like we said earlier, you can add nuts after you pour this into the chocolate chips and butter, and then after you've completely mixed it, you can add your either your walnuts, pecans, what other kind of nut you'd like to put in it. We've had friends make this, and they wanted to make large quantities, so they doubled the recipe. It doesn't work well with doubling the recipe. I suppose you could, but there's a lot of trial and error you're going to have to do to know how long you have to cook it. You'd have to cook it more than 6 minutes. So I wouldn't advise doubling the recipe. I'd make it a single recipe at a time, cooking it for the 6 minutes. I don't think you could double the recipe and cook it for 12. I just don't think that would be the right ratios. Okay, we're on the last minute. That's a perfect boil right there. I have the pan just halfway on the stovetop. That seems to be perfect. You can just control how much it boils. You can see how close it gets to the top. So if you had a smaller pan, it would be much more difficult to control. Just have about 20 seconds to go. I'm going to turn the stovetop down or completely off. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pour our liquid in. Just be real careful. You want to be careful, but if you want to be quick about it, go ahead and incorporating all the chocolate chips and the butter. This is why it's a good idea to cube your butter. Even better to have it at room temperature so it melts quickly. Can you get me a spatula?
Sorry, this.
Okay, you can see how creamy that's become. Butter is just about completely incorporated. I'm going to switch to a spatula, get rid of the spoon. Cleaning up the sides, getting all that butter. This would be the point where you would add, now that it's completely mixed in, this would be the point where you'd add your nut of choice. But you can see the consistency of that. There's no chocolate chips chunks in it. So we're going to go ahead and add that to our pan. Okay, and that's the final product. We'll go ahead and let that cool just a few more, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and put that in our refrigerator and keep it uncovered for a few minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and cover it. That's how you make Dave's fudge.
And we always leave it, we always store it in the refrigerator.
It can be cut into portions, put in a freezer-safe container, and put in the freezer. That fudge turns out well like that also. Happy holidays.
This has been in the fridge almost 24 hours. And I'm just cutting it into 8 blocks here. If you want to give out just a big block of fudge to somebody for the holidays, you can. And if you want to cut it up into little cubes, we'll do that too. And I just feel like the blocks just make it a little more manageable for me. See that in a little basket or on a plate would be really nice. You could put a bow on it. can give that to your neighbors, your mailman, garbage man, person who grooms your dogs, your hairdresser. Turn it that way. Now you're going to need to either store this in the refrigerator or the freezer. If you live in a colder climate, you might try it out on the counter. But I live in the Southwest, so fudge does not keep on the counter. I'm going to cut some in little squares just to show you how it would look. So here's the fudge cut up, put on a pretty Christmas plate. And then here's the fudge cut into bricks or blocks that you can put into baskets or on plates, or put a pretty bow on it and just give it like it is. And here you have Dave's fudge recipe. Happy holidays.
I don't even want to hear or see that video.